What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast in existence that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin. I'm your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2_ANT. Give me a follow on the old Twitter. TikTok handle as well. Same thing, pro__ant. Posting film clips and interview pieces and a lot of the things that you'll find on the old Twitter, just maybe with a little more chicanery and tomfoolery, and then like music and stuff that comes with the TikToks. That's all good and fun. Speaking of good and fun, in tonight's episode, very excited. Bills fans are excited, leaving Kansas City in week 6 with a victory against a team that I think most people would consider the arch nemesis of the Buffalo Bills right now, the Joker to the Bills Batman, destined to do this dance forever, just like the Joker says at the end of The Dark Knight. Good victory for the Buffalo Bills heading into this bye week at 5-1. And in that state of mind, wanted to evaluate the state of the Buffalo Bills right now, who they are on the offensive side of the ball, specifically what Josh Allen has done this year, how he's ascended in certain areas of his game, thoughts on Ken Dorsey and this offense, questions about this team, potential concerns about this team, and also reflecting a bit on the Buffalo Bills' really well-crafted standout performance in limiting Patrick Mahomes this past week against the Kansas City Chiefs. And with that being said, wanted to bring back a favorite of mine, someone who has been on the show now for, I think, the third time, maybe fourth. I forgot, and I've lost count, but he's one of the best in the business and explaining the hows and the whys of football and fits in with what I love and appreciate and gravitate towards, being the X's and O's and the hows and the whys and scheme and structure and all that good stuff. Without further ado, welcome to the show, Mr. Nate Tice of The Athletic. Welcome. How you feeling?
I'm doing well. Good to be. I was trying to remember how many times I've been on here. I think it's for sure 3. It might be 4.
It might be 4. I don't
might be 4, but yeah. So hopefully you don't have like a hat that I'm holding out. You're holding out on. You're like, oh, at 5 we give you a hat. So it's only been 3 so far.
I got like a punch card over here, and I just keep like marking each like performance.
I'll be like, oh my God, TRL, like where you retired the music video after a certain amount of time. That's like
good
that
reference. I mentioned TRL to one of my younger cousins a couple weeks ago, and he was like, TR what? And I was like, damn it.
Oh God. It used to be the shit.
That was what you had. Like you wanted to hear like that new, I remember like getting on the TV, watching TV, like getting home from school. Cause like that was how you got to hear that, like those songs or see those videos. Or you remember when MTV would do like the behind the scenes of like making the videos, and they did it with like Oops, I Did It Again and the Real Slim Shady, and that was how you consumed music. There was no like, oh, I like this song, let me just go and type it in and get it. No, you couldn't.
And it was a big deal, like if a music video got voted number 1, like they'd be like they'd make it like a huge deal. And I remember Tom Green broke the system because he did the Bum song. Do you remember that?
What do I remember?
God, I'm like, I don't even know how I was. Hold on, was that 10, 11, 12 then? But I remember that was a big deal. He got voted to number 1, and then they retired him early. And he said in an interview afterwards, because they were actually like mad at him for doing that. Like they were mad for his music video doing so well. So he broke the whole system there. And then Tom Green said in the interview, was like, I contribute my video to being the downfall of TRL and its integrity.
I love that.
Which I think is the best thing ever.
That's what it was like. I never associated TRL with like integrity, but I love how they drew the line and they were like, oh, we got to play this stupid song because people keep voting. I love that they were like, they felt compromised by the
Right.
If anyone
so when they realized that the internet, you could game the system, like the internet can like it was like that. And like the time they did like the person of the century for like time, and they did it for online voting, and Ric Flair was up there with like Hitler and Einstein.
Yes, I remember that.
And it was like, and they had to like take Ric Flair down because like, no, this is not part of it. And they're like, well, you said it was open vote. Like this is person of the century.
Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, yeah, who doesn't love the 4 horsemen?
To be the man, you got to beat the man. Like, have you seen him going? Like, he's the best thing going today.
He was the man of the century. Like, what else do you want him to do? You have to beat him. That was a perfect opportunity to do so. Yeah, I don't know how we've gotten Ric Flair and TRL already. It's been 5 minutes, so that's a good start for appearance number 4 or 3 or whatever which one it is.
Something in that mix. This happens to us every time. We very easily get sidetracked. We got sidetracked before we started the show. We started like 4 minutes late because you and I were just kind of, shooting the shit off screen, and then was like, like let's go do the show. I guess. Yeah, man, bit fortuitous that you're joining me here this week, not just because the Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs this past week, but you have some Bills or had some Bills content coming out this week. By the way, huge bravo and well done for the Wind the Clock segment. I'm a huge fan of that piece. Yeah, you're welcome. And I love like the longer form and the whiteboard action. Really good stuff. But you did the Wind the Clock piece on the Gabe Davis touchdown this past week against Kansas City. And then you did an article for The Athletic this week, which very well titled The 30s, because they're your awards at like the rough third portion of the season right now that we have stupid 17 games and there's no more quarters.
Right.
Josh Allen was your MVP right now for the 30. So you're pumping a lot of Bills content out this week, and you get to, join a Bills show to break it down and talk about some things. So really well timed. It's like we planned this.
I know. When you asked me, I was like, oh, I hope they win now, because it's not my favorite thing. Last week I did a Bears show, and it was after Justin Fields looked good. It was before the Thursday night game. And they're like, have you been waiting until he had a good game? And I go, no, but yes. So it makes it a little easier to come on. Then the Thursday night game happened, and that led to a whole lot of discussions. But no, it's the wind the clock's been a great workaround to not having access or the ability to show all 22 or any game film. And if you've noticed on those, it's the stop motion gifs.
It's like the original South Park.
Yeah, technically legal. So that's a workaround.
That ties it back to Ric Flair. If you ain't cheating and you ain't trying.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And so that was my way of doing it. But I appreciate that. I wanted to do a protection snap or a breakdown, and that clip was like perfect because it was exactly why you do that protection. It was a 7-man protection for all those. It was on Gabe Davis's touchdown at the end of the half, for those who haven't seen it. And it was, you probably saw the Gabe Davis.
I was going to say, I hope people are like, what game?
But yes, but the Wind the Clock segment was on that, but it was also the protection for it, which was really cool. And we could talk about that later about why that was cool. But yeah, no. And then the 30s article was easy. I think it's, Josh Allen obviously is just playing outstanding as well as Mahomes. Yeah. And honestly, every week I've probably changed my mind on that, but it's pretty easy to not give Allen the nod after what happened on Sunday. But it's those two's league, and everybody else is just living in it, because even trying to come up with a third name for MVP was a little tough. I threw in Lamar in there because of just what he does for that offense. It was almost by default, even with some of the struggles they've had. It's all Lamar all the time, just like how it's always all Josh Allen all the time.
I was going to say it's very similar parallel to the Bills. You open up the playbook, and page 1 is just a picture of each quarterback, and then page 2 is just nothing.
That's what it is. I get asked, especially with the Ravens, like, what should they do with the run game? It's like, well, Lamar stay healthy. That opens up everything else. And I think that's the same answer for the Bills as well with their run game, but we can talk about that a little bit as well. But but trying to come up with that third name, if anyone has suggestions, because I couldn't give it to Tua after I couldn't do that. I know his numbers look good, but it just can't. And people want to nod Jalen Hurts, but I mean, if you look at supporting cast, there is the most quarterback proof offense. Period.
They have, I feel like people keep focusing on, I mean, it's a quarterback driven league, so we get it. So like the Bills are sexy because of Allen, and the Chiefs are sexy because of Mahomes, and even the Ravens to a degree, although they've kind of shot themselves in the face these last several weeks. But people see the Eagles, and I think it's all, when Jalen Hurts looks great, everybody's like, man, it's Jalen Hurts.
Absolutely.
But even when he looks good, shout out to him. But he does have limitations. But even within those limitations, some of them don't matter. When healthy, they have arguably the best offensive line in football. They have a tremendous 1-2 receiver combo, good. They get quality snaps out of Boston Scott, and then this defense that they rebuilt in the offseason with they're just, how many times do we see everything in the secondary? Oh, we'll just pick up Darius Slay. Oh, we'll just pick up James Bradbury. Oh, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Sure, why not?
The Bradbury one is still bugging me. I'm like, why did no one else try to do this? I just don't understand that one. It's like, that guy better.
I really think
if the seal or something.
Seal
or something.
Just right in the. I really think if the Bills didn't get Kyer Elam, James Bradbury would have been Bill. I truly believe that in my heart of hearts. But same, the Eagles grabbed him, and I was like, that's not really good for the rest of the league. People can't keep letting them. And then when same thing, they traded nothing and got CD Deuce. And I was like, what is going on? And then what they have, then they get Jordan Davis falls into their lap in the draft. And they've just got this crazy front, this secondary that's aggressive. The linebackers are up and down and kind of meh. But everything else is, even if Jalen Hurts is bad, their supporting cast is so good that it's amazing. But people get caught up in the quarterbacks. And that's why, it's a weird age that we live in, where you've just got so many aliens at the quarterback position. Lamar in that class as well. But Allen and Mahomes, like I agree to your point, like they're just in another tier with what they do with their arms, how they're able to throw off platform, what they do mentally. Like it's setting, I feel like, an unfair bar and standard for quarterback play moving forward, because it's redefining the position in a way that isn't necessarily attainable for a large majority of people playing the position.
And there's been some discussion, I include myself on this, as like this offseason, it's like, okay, well, it's easier to be an average quarterback, but it's still hard to be an elite quarterback. Yes. And I think that this season's even emphasized that more, in the sense that I think a lot of defenses have caught up to what a lot of those Shanahan offenses have proliferated throughout the league. And I think defenses have really struck back. I mean, it's just telling with the points and passing game and everything.
Everything offensively is down.
I don't. Everyone's complaining about it. I freaking love it. I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome.
I mean, I love football in general, but I'm a defense guy first. I'm like, sweet, bring it back down. Like, regress to the mean. I'll take it.
But it makes good offenses stand out more. When all these offenses were looking the same and pressing all these easy buttons and making, the Jimmy G's of the world look exceptional, it was kind of, it felt empty. And it's hard to argue against people going like, no, they're actually not that good. And they're like, but look at all the numbers. I'm like, no, I understand that, but not really.
There's more to it. It's not
and it's hard. I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. And that's actually tied into maybe with even like what Jalen Hurts is. It's people have asked me, I've been on other shows where they go, what's the improvement that Hurts has shown? I'm like, he really hasn't improved. It's just everything around him has. And
he's a little bit better at finding AJ Brown wide open over the middle on like slants when they run an RPO and everybody in the second level bites.
And AJ Brown catches a slant, it goes for 40 yards instead of 6 yards. That's the difference. That's where it comes in. I mean, his like ADOT. I like Jalen Hurts. He's a fun player, but it's just a difference between him and what these other guys are doing. Like, I mean, the fact that, do you think the Bills or Chiefs could win a game if Josh Allen or Mahomes average depth of targets 3.2 yards? No. They couldn't do that. And Hurts has done that like twice this year, 3 times this year, because they're undefeated. So that's a little bit of a difference. But that's honestly, when you watch Allen, Mahomes, and Herbert's got a governor on him with his offense coordinator. But
I
really
get it with that offense. It's so infuriating. We're not going to push the ball past like 15 or 20 yards. We're just going to run sticks 75 times a game, and then we'll see what we get.
That started as a joke, and I'm so glad more and more people have like kind of caught on to it. But it's incredible how much they run, just the simplest day one concepts. With
stick and slant flats over and over and all these things. Similar to
quick game.
Yes, and similar to, albeit in a different way, like what the Packers are doing, just living horizontally, where it's just like, oh, cool, like Robert Tonyan, like in the flat for 3 yards, but with the Chargers, like I don't think Herbert is there with Mahomes and Allen, but he's a freak as well with his arm, his mobility. Like he's chucking 60-yard air yard throws with broken ribs, and you've got this offense that doesn't let him out of the cage.
I've described it as it's Joe Lombardi, their offensive coordinator, likes to go. He has a Ferrari and he likes to go 60 and a 65. He doesn't even go to the speed limit. He just goes. He likes to stay under it. And that's the thing, is Herbert's play style. Allen and Mahomes want to. They operate from the pocket, but they're fine getting chaotic. They're like, screw it. Let's go.
They thrive in it to a degree. Like you let them extend the play, and it could be with the legs or the arm. It's explosives regardless.
They love it. And Herbert, I think, is learning to that. He's like, oh, sometimes I gotta just let my hair down and try this stuff. I think so many times he tries to be perfect, and that's where it's. I've said that he's just got to lighten up a little bit. He's got to have a beer. Like he's got to loosen up a little bit, because what he does is so crazy. But when you watch Allen and Mahomes, it's just I've compared it to a dunk contest. It's like when they go against each other.
Nice. Just the oohs and ahs and
and then make a throw. They make a throw, and I just want to hold up a 9 or a 10. And then they make another throw, and I want to hold up a 10. And it's like that's what they on Sunday. It's a game that like it wasn't that high scoring, which is the whole league right now. But there's a 12 throws by both guys. I mean, just total by both guys. That's just I mean, they're rare. I mean, that's the only way to excellent, rare, like high end. S tier, 0.01%, however you want to describe it. That's how those throws they make, and they make several of them a game, several of them a drive. And it's how they just break this game and break these rules, and it's awesome. It's so much fun to watch these guys go at it. And it's almost like everybody else is like, okay, just don't screw it up for Josh and Patrick. Like, just don't screw it up. That's what it feels like everybody else on these teams do, because they're just so exceptional.
It's wild. And, I did the Cover One film room last night. We dove into both sides of the ball, really. And yeah, there are just several throws, even like with Mahomes, the one to Sky Moore on the over. He's drifting. Mahomes is drifting to his left and then stops just past like the left hash, resets a little bit, and then fires like a pinpoint dart to the opposite numbers past
Freaked
them,
out.
right on point to Sky Moore. And Dane Jackson's there. Dane Jackson's in good position. And it's just pinpoint. Even the one later, the one it's a smash concept, and he hits Kelsey like on the numbers.
Yep.
In between like three defenders. Allen does something similar. Yes, Allen does something similar later to Stephon Diggs, and hits him right when he turns into the numbers. And then the deep post to Diggs in between covers, the one to Dawson Knox that he fits in between the corner and Juan Thornhill, just throws that, like aren't normal. And you're seeing two players play the position from the pocket, outside the pocket, within script, outside of script and structure, with their legs, with their arm, with their mind, like misleading defenders, like with their eyes and the head games. Like it's a real special time for these two guys. And I think it's really exciting to see to have that next level of like rivalry and star power in the NFL as a time when Brady, I shouldn't even say this because he'll play for another like 20 years, but Brady seems like he's starting to go on his way out a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is starting to show some limitations. The NFL is always looking for like, well, who are those next guys we can put in every commercial and put on every Sunday night game together? What's the rivalry going to be? And you've got this Mahomes-Allen piece, and you've got the benefit of both teams looking like they're winning their division every year, which means they're going to keep playing each other every year. And then you have the benefit of them both being in the class of an entire conference, which means the odds are they're probably going to see each other in the playoffs. You just have to be so happy if you are the NFL that these two have walked into the world and into the systems that they're in and have reached the heights that they've reached. And honestly, they could still go higher, both Allen and Mahomes, which is terrifying. And that's, part of, as we transition that, I guess now to thank you. Well done. Hashtag good segue to the Josh Allen piece here. To start, we could gush on we could just do this for both quarterbacks for hours and hours. But talking about that ceiling and, Mahomes and Allen progressing and kind of, shifting that conversation to Josh Allen, every year, it just seems, whether it's small things or big things, he just keeps improving and stacking, becoming better. When you look at Josh Allen, your MVP at, this 30 part of the year, what do you see in his game? Like, what are your thoughts on him when you're watching Josh Allen, when you're evaluating him within this offense? What are you taking away? Are you seeing any particular things, areas he's improved, wrinkles that he's added, or just anything in general that's a major takeaway from you when you watch him play this position?
The first takeaway is he's fucking insane. But the second, but really it's, but I've kind of, this is the game that stands out to me, was the second game against the Patriots last year. And that is when he started taking checkdowns and taking underneath throws
early in his drop back, when he'd see it, he'd just dump it down when linebackers are still
pushing, everybody pushing. And he goes, I'm not even going to try. Yes, I can make those throws and try and squeeze it in there. I'm just going to take this check down for 8 yards and see what you do. And I've described it as throwing to set up the throw. And because that Patriots game, they started squeezing down and they was hitting them over the top in the second half. He took that, and now now he's consistently doing it. I would say, like, watching how he's attacked teams every week this year, whether it was the Rams game in week 1 and it was just nickel and diming. And I mean that as a compliment, because this is where arm strength comes into play. Is the ball gets to his guys so quick that they have so much more room than a guy with a popcorn arm does. Like, you just watch him against Kenny Pickett throwing from a couple of weeks ago. And it's like in the wind, and Kenny Pickett's trying to throw this. And then the guy, it's a little bit behind the guy because he doesn't have the strength to get it there. And then the guy gets tackled right away. Not that the scheme that the Steelers are running is great, but
very fair. You don't love Max Canada's game. You don't think all the unnecessary motion is amazing?
They ran sprint out, like smash, like 7 times. And Kaiir Elam, I could tell, was getting so pissed because it just kept happening. It kept happening to him over and over. And then finally in the second half, he knocked one down, or like it was a missed throw. And he was no one was more excited in that stadium than Elam. He was like, yes, one of these didn't get completed.
Finally.
But But you watch Kenny Pickett throw it, and then you watch Josh Allen, and those underneath throws, yes, he can make the hero throws down the field, which it's extraordinary what he can do. But those underneath throws, they have so much room to work with when they get the ball. I want to say it was against the Titans early in the year.
All the free access routes to Diggs on the outside.
So it's like, yeah, I know he's having his way with them. He's like, it was a play action, I believe, and he is trying. This kind of like sums up how Josh Allen's playing right now. There was a high-low. Gilliam ends up being in the flat, and then they have like a corner route, probably like a sail concept or something. And he's looking deep, and he knows that he wants to go deep. So he flashes his shoulder to Gilliam to try and get the defender to come up. Defender doesn't take it. He's like, no. I'm not letting you hit this behind me. So he's like, okay, screw it. So he's able to look deep, flash short, look deep again, and then throw it short, all within rhythm. And the ball gets out there. It's not like Gilliam's at the sideline because it took so long. He's still catching the ball exactly where it's ideal. And he was able to get like 8 or 9 yards on it. And it's because he's able to, now he's processing so quick, and he's doing these kind of eye movement stuff that he's still getting the ball out on time, but he's also adding layers to it. So it's almost like I don't know what's a good way to describe it. It's almost like a basketball player where like pumping a pass and then passing it, like kind of like pump, you didn't go, oh, then I'm going to throw it, but still being in rhythm. And it's extraordinary. So now he's doing this kind of little things, and he's layering this stuff together. And then on top of it, he's Professor Chaos, and he can create outside structure. I also think that he's not, he still does once in a while. And it's hilarious because he'll just get up laughing after he gets rocked. And it's like, like you're insane.
Yeah, stop doing that. Like, it's cool, but also stop
doing. But he's throwing the ball away a little bit more. Like when he's getting to chaos mode, and then he's like, screw it, there's nothing there. And he just lobs it out of bounds. Younger Josh would try to take it a hit and try to like throw it left-handed and do something crazy. So there's just a couple more of those. It's not that much a game. It's like once or twice a game. But he's like, okay, I'll just get it back on the next play. So it's great. He's still being chaotic, but he's capping himself just a little bit, and that's just growth as a player. It's so cool to see him just layer these things together week after week. And now we're just seeing it in fruition. The Chiefs defense is a good defense. I know people have had their idea of what the Chiefs defense has been the last couple of years. This defense is much improved, and he was just having his way with them. Like he was hitting hole shots. He is okay. The guy, there was a bubble he hit to, it wasn't Shakir, it was McKenzie. I think he hits a bubble because the Chiefs no one walked in their pressure to go.
Yes.
And he just hits him right away. And that's part of the play, but it's not the number one read on that play. It's just part of it. It was like, he goes, oh, that's an advantage, I'm taking it.
Yep.
God, so he's doing the little stuff. And on top of it, he's an incredible athlete. He's one of the best athletes in the sport. So he's awesome. It's so much fun to watch. It truly, truly is. I know I'm on a Bills podcast, but as a neutral fan, he is freaking amazing to watch. And it's so much fun.
Yeah. The physical ability, I think, is what gets lauded by people. The hurdles and the jukes and the run, and him being so big but so athletic and mobile. Yep. But for me, and this goes back to last year, but it's the same again this year. Like you highlighted, for me, it's that mental piece. There's, even if we're focusing on the Chiefs game in a vacuum, like that bubble to McKenzie. There's other throws in the game where he's just got simple. Like there's another throw. There's Reggie Gilliam in the flat. And then, this is the one where Diggs runs that corner and he fits it into Diggs. He opens up towards, McKenzie's in the flat. He opens up towards McKenzie and looks, and Chiefs are in cover 2, and the corner there hesitates in just the slightest. And you can see Allen see him, and he's like, gotcha. And then bang, fires it. And then later, right, earlier, that was set up because they're not covering down there. And he's just like, okay, cool. You're going to give me that space. Right. Cool. I'm going to dump it off, and I'm going to give it to Reggie Gilliam, and he's going to get 9 yards, and I'm going to dump it down. And that progression, I love that you tied it into the New England game last year. The Pats at that second level, Bentley and Hightower, everything bailing hard. Not even, no concern with.
Didn't care about the check down.
Nope, not at all. And so Josh was like, okay. And he's 1, 2, 3. And as he hits the top of his drop, it's not look. Okay, check down. He hits it right away because he knows that's what's going to be available. He knows that's what he can take. And that's, to your point, that next step, like that. And that doesn't mean he still can't beat you with his legs or his arm, but he's starting to play more quarterback from the neck up, and he's winning from the neck up. And that should be terrifying for everyone, because, and it's similar to, again, these two will dance for as long as they're able to. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Like people talk about the arm and the cannon and the speed on the Chiefs and all this and that. But think about all like you couldn't fool him pre-snap and his ability to just adjust on the fly. Even if you did, like it was hard to beat him mentally. And then he had the physical tools to match.
Yep.
And Josh Allen's mental progression every year. I don't think it's unique to this year. You've seen it grow each year, but this year it's even more. He just, exactly your point, he can live in the pocket and play the quarterback position as if he's a pocket passer. And then he can also be a magician in the pocket.
Yes.
Exactly. Juke out defensive linemen or break tackles from defensive tackles. And that next level, it's just unreal to watch on tape. And then even from like a yardage perspective, certain like metrics as a passer, he's got 54.79 EPA. That's the most in the NFL. Second is Mahomes at 43.57. Third is Tua at 30. He's 24. He's almost 25 EPA points higher than the person in third place. And the person in second is Mahomes, and he's 14 higher. And then, so we know what he can do like as a passer, but as a runner, out of 133, unreal, 133 qualifiers as a runner, like guys who just had at least one carry. He's ninth in EPA as a rusher in the entire NFL, 12th in EPA per attempt, 5th in percentage of runs that resulted in positive EPA at 66%. He's 10th in first down percentage on runs, and he's 9th in yards after contact per attempt.
It's absurd. The stat I had for his running was he's scrambled 23 times on pass plays, on dropbacks, and it's been a successful play for the Bills 21 of those times. So it's and Jalen Hurts, put in perspective, I think it was, I wrote this in my article, he's scrambled 22 times, and I think he's been successful in like 14. And I think,
and think of how many of those scrambles came in week 1 against Detroit, where they were just playing man coverage, and he just had oodles and oodles
of space.
Off.
Yes, I know.
Yes,
I know. Yeah, that's another thing with the Eagles is they haven't played anyone, so that's another discussion with them.
I feel bad because
I know
we keep finding ways to like shade Jalen Hurts.
I know, and they're such a good team, but I think it's because I had a couple of Eagles fans yelling at me because you don't give them enough credit. I'm like, oh come on, everybody else is. You guys got to take some.
Let me be the one person over here. Not everybody needs to be over there. Like pump the brakes.
No, exactly. It's and that's what it is. There's also the play against the Ravens. It was the Khalil Shakir throw on the sideline, and like that. So Allen in that play is trying to do the right thing. He got through to 2 on his progression. He's like 1 to 2. Yeah. Then the pocket just became a mess. He like shoves Oweh away, like scramble. Oweh runs like a 4.4 flat at 270 pounds. Shoves him away, scrambles around and gets the edge on the other defender, and then just throws a missile. Like you could barely even see the ball, and it just pins it.
While not even really squaring his shoulders to the line, and he fires a dart right to the sideline.
It's all arm. It's absurd, and that's what it's so like. And that's like whenever like Robert and I talk about on the show, we just laugh the whole time because it's like it's this, and this is too like that creation stuff is like this is becoming a thing. Everyone's like, oh, everyone's gonna be chasing the next Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. It's like everyone's always been chasing the next Josh Allen. Like that, it's just this guy is smart enough and worked hard enough that it actually worked out, and he was in a great support system. But and that's where also too, I don't want to knock like Jordan Palmer or anything, but it's everyone's like, oh, he just went with the perfect private QB coach. It's like credit Josh Allen. Josh Allen improved. He worked his ass off. It's not just because of the private coach. But like watching Malik Willis, who was a prospect that the Titans drafted in the 3rd round, some people are hyping him up as a 1st-round prospect, and it was like, ugh. And everyone's like, well, you're chasing the next Josh Allen. It's like, well, the thing with Malik Willis, and he could create. He was an outstanding runner, and he could throw these deep balls and everything.
Got a cannon too, yeah.
Yep, but you still have to operate from the pocket. You still like that is always going to be the first step. Everybody loves the creation stuff. Lamar is an incredible creator, but the thing with Lamar is a good pocket passer.
Yes, and people don't talk about that enough. They just don't understand that. Runner.
His footwork's funky. He throws funny. He changes his arm slot all the time. He's a good pocket passer. And he actually progresses. But his running is so extraordinary that's what everyone's going to. I get it. That's where the highlights are. But you always have to be able to operate from the pocket. That is always going to be number one. But the thing is, Allen's doing that so exceptional. And then on top of it, he's doing all the crazy creation stuff. That's why him and Mahomes are just at this crazy level, because they can just do both of these things, not just well, but excellent, which is, it's insane. It's really hard to think of guys that can do it like this. It's a very short list in the entire history of the NFL, which that's not hyperbole. That is like true. These guys are crazy what they're doing.
And it makes the margin for error for defenses so small and so slight. Even on that one play I was talking about earlier, the corner to Diggs, that corner there, he hesitates slightly. Like it's not even a full stops. Like he's dropping, he's sinking, and gives the slightest, oh, is he gonna? That's it. All it took was that half quarter second, however long the time was, that little itty bitty flinch, and you're beat. You have such a small margin for error when you play these quarterbacks, and you have to operate complete. The game plan has to be sound. The play call has to be sound. The execution from all 11 players has to be sound. And that's what makes them worth the oodles and oodles of money that they get
paid. Pay them enough.
No, you can't. And they become almost. Josh Allen's offensive line last year didn't really protect him a lot, and he erased so much. They didn't have a run game for the majority of the year, and he put the team on his back majority of the year. The Kansas City Chiefs, I'm not saying they're a better offense, but you are easily a worse team when you lose a player of Tyreek Hill's caliber. Mm-hmm. And Mahomes is able to just be like, yeah, we'll kind of Band-Aid this thing and be okay. And by Band-Aid, it's like, we're going to like lead the league in points per game going into like week 6 and just, I'm going to focus on like different areas.
For drive, everything. It's hilarious.
It shouldn't be those things. You shouldn't be able to like, a team shouldn't be like, we're not going to pay that number 1 wide receiver and we're just going to send him somewhere else. You shouldn't be able to do that. Like you should be I hate to do this again. You should be more like the Eagles where you're like, we need to get that number 1 guy. We need that AJ Brown because it'll help our quarterback this much. And not that like a guy wouldn't help Allen or Mahomes, but they have that ability to just raise everything, erase everything. And it's just that next level of play. And it's really special to see what he's doing this year.
And like just one more example, like just bending the rules is a lot of, not only everyone like being in too high is kind of like the thing of the season and it's very real, but but it's cover 2 is making quarterbacks either be heroes with the throws because you have to hit hole shots or over the middle of the field or be patient. Like Joe Burrow's hit a lot of frustrations this year because he doesn't want to be patient. Even though he doesn't have the strongest arm, he wants to hunt. He loves throwing go balls. That's what he likes to do. And so that's why cover 2's kind of knocked him because he is smart and tough and like a playmaker that Burrow is. His arm strength is average. And that's what I'll say. I'll put it at average. My nickname for him has been Dak Pennington. Because
that's good.
He's big, he's smart, but arm strength isn't always there.
Yeah, a little bit of chat in there.
Yeah. So but Allen and Mahomes, when they face cover 2, yes, they'll check it down, but then they'll hit the hole shots. And Allen's done it seems like weekly, and he's throwing these hole shots to the field. And hole shots in cover 2, you got the deep half safety and you got the flat defender. So you got this little pocket. Most guys hit it to the boundary because it's a little bit of a shorter throw. Allen has hit at least 3 this year to the field. And that breaks the rules because, like you say, you're putting that corner in the bind. And that's why you see the check downs to the flat because the corner is like, well, I got to sink because he's going to have a whole shot over my head. So that's where breaking the rules is they're doing the easy stuff, but then they do that 0.01% stuff that usually you only see a quarterback do once a season. And like I said, Allen has done it at least 3 times this year. I can just think of top of my head. There might be more. And Mahomes has done it at least twice that I can recall off the season. And that's a throw that most guys can make once a year. And we're like, oh, wow, that was an awesome throw. And they've done it several times. That's when we say break the rules. That's what these guys are doing on top of doing all the running around stuff.
And when they start to take like those, both Allen and Mahomes were, focusing on Allen, like when you start to take those little checkdowns and take that stuff underneath, you create that hesitation and you create defenses having to someone now have to honor those underneath throws and those checkdowns. And all of a sudden those 0.01 throws become like 0.09 or like 1.5. And that's 1.5 for like a regular, like odds. But for Allen and Mahomes, like a 1.5 might as well be like a 50% chance with what they can do. And that's where you're just living and dying as a defense being like, do we want to get bled slow or do we want to get killed quick? But either way, we're dying. And what do we do?
It's pick your poison, and it's not a lot of fun.
No, it's not fun for the defenses, but it's been fun for Josh Allen and for Patrick Mahomes as well. And let's stick on the offensive side of the ball. Ken Dorsey, first-year offensive coordinator, first-year play caller. What are your thoughts on Ken Dorsey? You know, what hits you? Are you seeing what he's doing from a design standpoint? Is anything formationally or personnel wise standing out for you schematically, play calling? You know, what are your thoughts here with Ken Dorsey early into his first year?
What I like is I think he's trimmed some fat of stuff that maybe didn't work last year. I think Dable sometimes he got a little too crazy with the light personnel, the zero personnel, with
Mm,
all five receivers on the field, which there's a time and place for, but he was trying to build the whole plan out of it for a little bit at the beginning of the year, and they realized those limitations. I
mm.
think Dorsey really learned from the lessons late in the year. And I've been on the show. We've talked about using Reggie Gilliam more, using
Yes,
just
we
different
love Reggie
personnel.
Gilliam.
I
Yeah, so do
do.
I.
You do too? Okay, great. He's just a
Love
good
him.
player. He's just a useful player. Like not everyone has to be a star. He's just a
Yeah.
useful, good,
And his,
solid
and his
player.
versatility and his role, it allows you
Yep.
to access more of the menu without
He's
having to flip the page.
he's a
He can
tight
be
end. He's a fullback. He's a move guy.
He's lining
He's
up in
perfect.
spread looks as the number one
Yep.
wide receiver, which allows
Yep.
you to put like Stephon Diggs as the three. Like
Yep.
it's just his verse, and
Useful.
he's not just lining up out there because we're going to line him up out there. Like he can actually
Yep.
do stuff.
Yep. He's a fine route runner. It's
Yes.
but a guy like this game against the Chiefs, going into that game, the Bills had only been in 12 personnel with two tight ends 5 times the entire year. This past week they ran it 7 times.
Mm,
So they doubled their usage, more than doubled their usage in one game. And why I want to bring that up is because it's an ability to tweak the game plan based on what the Chiefs present.
mhm.
Steve Spagnuolo, we saw him blitz several times, blitz Josh Allen several times. How you make a blitz happy team like Todd Bowles or Steve Spagnuolo, how you make those kind of defense coordinators more basic is you get them in base personnel, which
Mhm.
is more linebackers on the field. And how the Bills did that was like, okay, we're going to try out 12. We got Tommy Sweeney out there catching passes. I honestly,
Yeah.
I know a lot of rosters. I take pride in knowing a lot of random players.
You had to look him up, look up the number.
Tommy Sweeney, I had to look up. It's like, oh, Tommy Sweeney. I was like, who the hell is this guy catching the ball? But why that happened was they were going into ace formation, dot formation, tight end on either side of the ball, receiver on either side of the ball. They're getting in a balanced look and making the Chiefs be balanced as a defense, and
Yes.
the run game looked good out of it. They were getting to different types of runs. They're running pin pull. They did a fake pin pull where they did a wind back, which was really cool.
Oh,
So
with
they're
Morse.
yeah. So that why they did that was because they showed, okay, the same formation, we're running pin pull. The same formation, I think they went zone. Same formation,
Mhm.
running pin pull. And then they did the change up off of it. That's what good run games do. We have Josh Allen. Against the Dolphins, we dropped back 71 times, which was like the most on record.
Yeah, in the history of ever.
A history of ever. We can't live this way. That's a crazy way to live. Yes, it's awesome that we can do that with Josh Allen, but we have to make it easier. We have to hit some easy buttons. So I thought that was a great tweak to what they have done. I think a great kind of yin and yang or dichotomy, whatever phrase I would. I'm like Biff.
Juxtaposition, anything
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
like Biff from freaking Back to the Future, man. I just mess up all my metaphors. I'm so bad with them. So I promise I read a lot. It's just I mix them all up in my
Yeah,
brain.
I promise
So
I'm smarter than you
I
think I am.
promise I'm smart. I sound like Fredo. But it's comparing him to the Steelers, the Bills game plan against the Steelers last year in week 1, and then this year.
Mm,
It's the same defensive coaches, a lot of the same personnel. I know TJ Watt was out, but
mhm.
going against that team was the adjustment in their protections. Last year against the Steelers in week 1, they just ran simulated pressures over and over and over, and the Bills had no answers for it. And it was kind of weird. It was like, what the hell is going on? Like, you guys should, how do you guys not fix this?
Yeah.
And in this game, you could tell they're like, not again. You're not getting this again. So they adjusted their protection. It's just a simple twist, but just how they pointed it so they can get the running back still out on a route, or the running back was aware of what's going on rather than a free runner coming.
Mhm.
So I just thought that was, they've shown all these teams that they're playing against that they have these tweaks, that they have these, they're adapting to what they have. They're not just going, Josh, roll. They're not doing what the Cardinals do with Kyler, just rolling the ball
Tyler,
out.
go do something.
Go do something. Go do something. And when you have Josh Allen, it's very easy to like fall into that trap. Like that happened with the Chiefs a little bit last year, and I feel like they got shaken awake a little bit, going like, "Oh shoot, we can't do this." And I appreciate what Ken Dorsey's trying to do. Reggie Gilliam, and I always tweet this. I go, Reggie Gilliam is the most important player on the Bills because they're running fullback looks with him, true I formation looks, and you're making the defense be basic and you're getting advantageous run looks. That's why people like running I formation runs.
Yes.
It's because you got a guy in the backfield who's able to hit different points in
Yes.
the run game. So it's kind of one of those things where he's just adding, yes, we could spread it out and we could chuck it, but we can do these other things and sprinkle them in and make the defense can't tee off on us now. Now we have to like, oh shoot, we have to fit the run. Oh shoot, we have to do this. And also like just another tweak was that 7-man protection that I talked about with Gabe Davis.
Yes. The adjustment after they were trying to beat it with quick game and beat it with hot early. And then they were just like, you know what, screw it. Let's just protect this up and let Josh do something.
That's exactly it. They said that that's two ways to beat pressure is get the ball quick or block it up and bomb away. Like just, hey, you're going to try and gash us. We're going to hit you over the top. And a lot of teams don't like doing that because it takes work. It takes effort. It's hard. It's hard to sort that out. That's why I wanted to highlight that play.
Yeah, it was a great
and it was so that 7-man protection. They have done that before, but the timing of it was perfect. Hey, we're entering this range. We're just outside the 30-yard line. This is when Spags loves to heat up quarterbacks because he wants to get a sack and knock you out of field goal.
And it had been working up to that point. So he's like, you know what, screw it. Let's keep going to the well because they're not handling it great.
At all. And then they caught him. It was 1st and 10. And I know it's 2 minute, but 1st and 10, they were like, hey, we're going to 7-man protection. And that's when you do 7-man protections. It's like, hey, let's wad up the blitz, let's sort it out, and let's launch it over the top. Did it perfectly. And I think that was just a great little snapshot of what Dorsey and this Bills staff have really adjusted their game plans.
That's been my biggest takeaway for Ken Dorsey in this early part of the year is that adjustment piece and how he's attacking different defenses. And, to go to those personnel numbers, actually, I want to start with the run game piece, which we're also going to talk about in a little bit, maybe in some other ways. Weeks 1 through 5, this Bills run game has not been ideal. It was a little better against the Steelers when they started using more gap scheme, more pin and pulls. It started to come back. Weeks 1 through 5, 28% gap, 67% zone. Week 6 against the Chiefs, 50% gap, a 22 percentage point jump, 40% zone. And then from a personnel standpoint, you alluded to it already, weeks 1 through 5, 74% 11 personnel, 17% 21 personnel. Those are the two highest groupings, right? 11 and 21. Then in week 6 against the Chiefs, 11 personnel, 64% of the time, a 10 percentage point drop, 24% 21 personnel, and then the 10% 12 personnel. So 34% of the time, they're in more of those like the pro personnel looks, either two backs or two tight ends, which exactly to your point, what does that make the Chiefs do who want to live in these nickel and dime looks? You got to match, and you got to match with 3 linebackers. So then what does Ken Dorsey do? Ken Dorsey is lining up in strong eye formations, and he's running sail concept out of it.
Play action. It's so old school. It's awesome.
It's beautiful. Everything is cyclical. Time is a flat circle.
It's amazing.
Rust and Cole, True Detective. I'm sorry. I never point right for anything on the show. I get confused. I'm very happy that I pointed right this time. I'm very proud of myself. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Jules, there's times where I'm like, say I have like something or I want to fix something. I'm always like, I like twitch my eye to go like, oh yeah, this is right. This is my right side. Like that's my tell to myself. I like
you need like a key. You need a key. Well, then I always just go right for it, and I have probably a good batting average. I'm probably at batting 320, but that's still 3 out of 10, which is absolutely terrible.
Gets you to the Hall of Fame though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but it gets me to Hall of Fame, it gets me jacked. Fantastic. And they're running them out of these basic looks, but it works because Reggie Gilliam is athletic and can get to the flat. And then your other parts, you can vary it up. Like Dawson Knox can be the vertical stretch guy, and Diggs can be that intermediate route, or Diggs can be the vertical guy and Dawson Knox can be the intermediate route, or you can stay in that personnel grouping and split out Reggie Gilliam as the one, which they did in this game. They had a play, and it was similar to what they did the week before against the Steelers, where it got Stephon Diggs matched up on the inside as the number 3 receiver against Robert Spillane. Against the Steelers, it was a 3-by-1. This time it was more pure spread. And you've got Gilliam as the 1, Quentin Morris as the 2, Stephon Diggs as the 3. But because of the personnel grouping, the Chiefs match with base. And then because Diggs is as the number 3 receiver, who's he matched up on? Nick Bolton.
That's right. And they ran the little choice route to him or whatever. The shake route.
Yes. And Diggs literally comes out of his stance and is just like, bang. And Allen hits him right away because he sees it like, oh, this is what the matchup is. And that's not a knock on Nick Bolton.
Nope.
But Nick Bolton.
It's an advantage.
A huge advantage. One of the best route runners, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in that position with a 2-way go arguably a 3 because they're also playing 2 high looks. So he can split that vertical. He can go left. He can go right. He can go short, intermediate, whatever he wants to do. The world is his oyster. And you saw that time and time again. And also to hit on that, some of the pieces from Ken Dorsey, his usage of Stephon Diggs in this game against the Chiefs, 46.3% in the slot, which is a jump up from what he is on the year of 37.1% in the slot, which is an even bigger jump than what he was last year under Brian Dable, which was 20.9%. So a 17 percentage, like above 16 percentage point jump in the slot versus last year. And then in just this game alone versus his average last year, a 25 percentage point jump.
8 to 10 snaps a game.
Yes.
That's significant. That's a very big jump. It really is.
Yes, it's huge. And when you're mixing that in with personnel groupings where you're running traditional offense and like pro looks and okay, cool, we're going to run power. Okay, cool, we're going to run counter. Just kidding. It's play action and it's a sale concept. Oh, and then we're going to stay in the same group and we're going to go spread. And then what are you doing? Now you've got, and also because they have backup linebackers because Willie Gay is out like we were talking about earlier. Now you've got this personnel grouping that the Chiefs do not want to live in. They do not want to be in 3 linebackers. And if they do, they want to use it to play the run, not defend the pass. And not only do you make them have to defend the pass, but you're putting their linebackers on your best offensive weapon aside from Josh Allen. And we've seen that time and time again this year from Ken Dorsey. His ability, to use your phrasing, to turn the dials up and down based on opponent. And those dials could be certain plays and concepts. It could be certain personnel groupings and formational alignments. What he does week to week, because of the multiplicity and versatility that this Bills offense has in its personnel and roster, allows him to just play and do different things. And, oh, cool, like you're bad against 21 this week, we're going to live in 21. Oh, you're bad in 11 this week, we're going to live in 11. Oh, you can't defend gap runs? Cool, we're going to live in pin and pull this week and counter and power and all of those things. And I think that's been really, I still do have some concerns, which we will get to. But again, and the sample size is small. I'm very interested to see what happens especially as things move towards the playoffs and you have that larger sample size and teams are able to really kind of game plan against you and they see what you do and when you do it. I'm interested to see how teams kind of counter back with it. Again, still being his first year, but arguably like a pretty successful first run with what dials he's turning and how he's using these pieces in this offense.
No, absolutely. The being the play action out of I formation stuff is such a great point.
Yes.
Because that's exactly what you're getting. It's none of this is reinventing the wheel. That's what's so fun. And it's just it's opening up the menu and almost it's all vegetables and fruit as opposed to like candy. That's kind of what he's doing. He's like, oh yeah, I kind of liked carrots before.
Yeah.
Okay, but
and they're good for you. Let's do that more.
Yeah, let's do that. And so those play action concepts and those are so beneficial for a quarterback like Allen as well, because what play action does, even with the fake, you're not worried about the run game. Like you might not be with the Bills.
Still got to honor it.
Still got to honor it. They come up and then they usually fly back and they have their backs turned. And so when you got an athletic tight end like Knox or Josh Allen, who's really good with his legs. So now you got tight ends on linebackers, like you mentioned, but also Josh Allen. It's a great play action or a scramble opportunity is play action. Turn your back, and that turns into you becoming your own check down. The running lanes open up completely. And like you alluded to, and maybe we can get into it, but it's I like some of the run game stuff again, maybe especially against the Dolphins and some of the offensive line woes. They do creep up sometimes, as amazing as Josh Allen is. But this Chiefs game was a little more like, okay, you guys have answers. Like it is a run the ball type of game, that's kind of cool to see that you're trying to at least find answers, even if it isn't always pretty. So talking out both sides of my mouth, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm becoming more of a buyer of Ken Dorsey every week that goes by than maybe I was going into the year.
I think that's fair. I was cautiously optimistic. And again, I still think the jury is still out because the sample size is so small, but there's a lot of encouraging pieces because it's easy to kind of not manage this well. You have the keys to a Ferrari in this instance. And are you going to Joe Lombardi it or are you going to actually drive the speed limit or a little more so and maybe do some donuts and pull some nice turns and take advantage and really open that thing up? Or are you going to keep things safe? Or I don't know, do you not know how to shift from like park to drive? Like
Right.
it falls apart and you try to leave the parking lot and the engine pops out and you're like, well, this car's broken now. Like,
I love you stretching a metaphor for everything. That was perfect. No,
I
that was
pride
great.
myself on my metaphors and my analogies. So I really appreciate the recognition
That was
for it.
great. I
Thank
love
you
it.
very much. Let's switch to, you mentioned the run game, the offensive line. Let's talk about some questions and or concerns moving forward for this team in any area. But I feel like, this is a big one for this team. I know you've spoken about it several times this year. This goes back to you and I talking last year, I think the very first time you were on, and it was before the Bills found that identity in the run game. And we were both like, they need a pivot. They need a pivot. They can't just come out and have it be a Josh Allen pass fest. Like, you need a pivot. They started to find it a little bit as the season went on.
Yeah.
So far this year, you are the guest. You go first. Questions or concerns? Is it offensive line base? Is it run game base? Is it both? Is it something else? Where's your head at if you're looking at this team being like, this is an area or areas I'd like to see fixed?
Yeah. Yeah. The run game, as we alluded to, it's fine. Like, it's fine right now. I want to like Devin Singletary. He just doesn't have any juice. And so
especially when you juxtapose it with like James Cook's touchdown run against the Steelers, where he gets to the second level and Minka's coming on and he just like, I'm going to step and go over here. His speed changes things. Singletary doesn't have that. As much as you want to like him, he doesn't have it.
Right. And so it's like, even though he's doing a good job in protection, I will give him that. But
he's improved with his pass protection.
He really has. I am too. It's so, but like when you don't have a dominant offensive line, like the Bills average at best offensive line, it's that they're not creating anything extra. Like Josh Allen's creating with his legs. Like, hey, if it's only blocked for 3 and he's getting you 9, but these guys are, if it's blocked for 3, he's probably only getting you 3.
Yep.
And so that's a personnel thing. I think they're varying up the run game, which was one of my concerns. And like I keep mentioning it, but this past week and really last 2 weeks, and not what they're varying up in the run game has really, that's alleviated some concern I've had as far as just concepts run. The thing too is that Josh Allen, kind of surprisingly, I know we've mentioned the touchdown to Gabe Davis and everything, kind of more of he's only been average EPA wise against the blitz, against 5 or more, which I think
he started out 0 for 7 in this game against the Chiefs, which kind of further, he's picked it up a little, but he struggled mightily early.
I think it was like it was like there's 3 big plays that he hit, but then all the rest were kind of not that great. And some of that's with the O-line and guys get through, they have free runners, and speaks to Josh Allen. Like the Dolphins game is the one that's burned in my brain. He made about 20 free runners miss that game. Yes, he can do that. Yes, Josh Allen can drop back 71 times. Like we keep saying this. You just don't want to live in that.
Yeah, I would say, but should he?
Yes. It's playoff game. Hell, let's do it. Whatever it takes to win. Whatever.
Empty the chamber.
Week in, week out. It's just tough. And it scares you. You don't want your quarterback taking free shots. He makes guys miss. He doesn't get hit as much as he used to, but that is still being a little bit one blemish I've seen. A lot of quarterbacks, it seems, have dropped off a little bit against pressures this year. I think that's just defenses have gotten a lot smarter and a lot more intelligent with how they distribute everybody.
Yeah, but everybody's starting to use more simulateds and creepers and trying to dictate protection and change the pre to post snap picture.
They understand the offensive rules so much better. They want you to throw hot, and they have guys dropping into hots. They rally to tackle. They've learned kind of what your answers are. I'm excited to see what the swing back will be, but it's fun to see which teams have answers like offensively and which teams are just like, it's like anytime we blitz them, they're just like, we're fucked. Exactly. So, but it's what that's what be one concern, and that's more of a personnel thing, and that's going to maintain throughout the year. The draft doesn't happen at Halloween, and you can't just draft some first rounder right now.
You got who you got right now.
You are who you are. You're not someone, it's Orlando Pace isn't coming through that door just on the next game. Like there's none of that's coming up.
Prime Orlando Pace on this team. Good Lord.
It would be amazing, right?
That's so good.
And so that's where I will say that's concern. But I will say that some of the scheme stuff has improved where I'm not as like, man, this is gimmicky. I actually think the rules have improved because they've realized what defenses are doing to them. But I think just that O-line personnel it's going to creep up at some point. And it is what it is. That's what this team is. Josh Allen can make a lot happen, but there's going to be some games or frustrating stretches where it's like, oh my God, our offensive line can't block anybody. But the good thing is there's not a ton of those that you have to go against, but that would be the one kind of maybe concern in the back of my head.
I'm right there with you. And I go back and forth each week. Is it like the run game holistically or certain aspects of the offensive line? I think to your point, this at best, This offensive line is like a middling
Yep.
15, 14, 16, 17 type offensive line, which again is fine. You can't have studs everywhere. And when you've
Right.
got Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and Dawson Knox and a decent enough group of running backs, like there's going to be spots like, and then also take the other side of the ball into account, everything you have on defense. Like some position group is going to have a hole somewhere or be deficient in some kind of area.
Just math.
Yes, that's
it.
Like
it goes.
Math is, offense and football in general is math, and defense is geometry and spacing, and everything connects, and you just got to solve for X. This offensive line does scare me a bit just because of, we saw last year, especially when they struggled in starting with week 1 against the Steelers and then going through, and the slump that they had, especially really culminating against Jacksonville, when all Jacksonville was doing was just 4-man rushes and twists and stunts. And there was just, it wasn't that they were just getting beat from a physical or execution standpoint. It was just like, nobody's picking up anybody. We don't know how to handle like a twist or like an exit stunt. Like that's it. And we haven't seen that type of vulnerability this year. And I know, that Miami game is burned in my brain too, but with the heat and the injuries and all that weird stuff, but you saw a potential, like how much this offense can be slowed down a bit if everything has to get put on Josh's plate, to the point where if you don't have a running game and Josh is constantly having to make the offensive line right by manipulating the pocket and adjusting and moving and doing all these things, it's a lot. And that was my big takeaway from the Miami game. The game plan that Boyer cooked up, it wasn't necessarily that they beat Josh Allen, but they mentally and physically taxed the hell out of him. Every play, he was, I know what this coverage is. And on the snap, he was like, it's something different. There's a rusher coming at me. Every play was like that. And they just wore on him. You saw by the end, he was exhausted. Like he meets Tua after the game, just puts his head on his shoulder because he wants to like fall down because he's wiped. That creeps into my head a little bit. Like, can they have that pivot established with the run game? Do something to be able to make Josh be like, for a play or two, and just kind of relax and get some of those easy plays in the run game, and then also protect him up front. The pass protection has been better than the run blocking, but those are my 2 questions or concerns: the O-line performance and the run game.
Yeah, and it's, I've kind of said before that the run game or this offense sometimes could feel like the first iteration of the LeBron Cavs teams, where it would just
the ones with like Mo Williams that went to the playoffs.
Yeah, so it's just like the run game is just passing the ball to Mo Williams. It's just so Josh Allen could take a breather as opposed to like actually trying to gain yards. But no, that's exactly it. And I know we'll probably talk about this in a sec, but that's what the answer is when you face one of these freak quarterbacks, Josh Allen or Mahomes, like what the Bills did with Mahomes, is you got to change up the looks. You have to make them hold for that extra half second, just to, even if it's not your favorite coverage to run, just to make them guess, or not just guess, but just confirm. And just go, okay, you are running cover 2. Okay. You are in man coverage, and just that extra little half second so they don't get the ball out right away and your pass rush gets home. Or that they just throw the ball. They're like, I want to throw that corner. Oh shoot. Okay. You're in 3. Okay. I got to check it down. And so it's just that, like you said, consternation. That would be what the Dolphins did well. I've looked at the schedule beforehand. I was like, okay, well, what teams will make them do that? I'm like, the Dolphins again, Patriots. It's like, okay, there's not a ton that can do it. So, but that's the other thing too, is that once you hit the playoffs, playoffs become 1-game seasons, and those coaches look at every game and they start putting together all the tendencies. And so that's where the worry comes in, is in the playoffs, defenses just change up everything they do. So it's good that they can show answers against it, but they got to do it against a team that has done it to them.
Yes, and to bring back an analogy you used, I believe the first time you were on the show, it's that rock, paper, scissors piece. And when you get to the play, like you can have the regular season and everybody's throwing rock and you're just like, cool, like we can just keep throwing paper, we're good. But what happens if someone throws paper? Can you throw scissors? And if you can't, you're throwing paper against paper, and that might work, but you need something to counter. You need to be able to work in everything. And to your point, all it takes is that one matchup, that one team that throws paper to your rock, and you're done and you're out. It's you have to be matchup proof as much as physically possible. All it takes is one game plan or one stud or one misexecuted block. The game can change in an instant. And I think that's where there's that high variability for the Bills offensive line. Sometimes it's all nice, and other times you're just like, God.
That's why when we're talking about Dorsey, that's why I was encouraged with how he's using his personnel. Is he's trying to give himself more tools. He's trying. He's like, man, we got the best freaking hammer in the league right now with Josh Allen. But he's trying to get a wrench. He's trying to get a screwdriver.
Put more on the tool belt so we can bob the builder that
have he's trying to build it out a little bit. He's trying to get the the quarter inch. Like he's trying to get every little thing that he can. But that's what he's attempting to do, because that's what good defenses make you do. They just go, we're taking your hammer away and do it like rock, paper, scissors. But that's what he is. That's why I'm encouraged by what he has tried to do, but it still isn't perfect yet.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I know we started to go over a little bit. You cool to hit this last segment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. You're a hero. You're fantastic. just like Ric Flair. Man of the
right.
So we talked about, and you alluded to it, trying to stop these quarterbacks like the Josh Allens of the world and the Patrick Mahomeses of the world. The Bills' game plan this past game against the Kansas City Chiefs and what they threw at Patrick Mahomes, holding this Chiefs offense to 20 points, picking off Mahomes 2 times. What they threw at him, I have a lot of notes because we broke this down in the film room. I'm extremely excited for, especially for like multiple. I'm just very excited in general because I love good defensive game plans that pull from different pieces and put things together for a holistic action. What are your thoughts? When you went back, watched this game, studied the tape, how the Buffalo Bills defense defended and like limited Patrick Mahomes, because you alluded to it, like what you can kind of do to these quarterbacks. What was your major takeaway for what they did and how they were able to affect him?
They threw out a couple unscouted looks, which is very strange for the Bills, because Bills are kind of one of those teams that go, this is what we do on defense.
Yes, and this is who we are. It is what it is. Beat it if you can.
Yep. And I call it the boa constrictor defense. They bait you and bait you and bait you, and they just squeeze you, squeeze the zones. They squeeze everything. They hit you over and over and over. Offenses are like, we're going to create some yards after the catch. And it's like, boom, 3-yard tackle. I was like, well, that sucked. Like, and then
crap, it's third down. Oh, now it's fourth down.
Now third and 9. Shoot, we were what? Like, how's this working? And they rotate the defensive front. It's like, oh my god,
hockey line style where they just keep first line, second line, checking line.
That's why they get better as the games go along. At first, that's what you have to. If I were game playing against this Bills, and I guess you could say this about every freaking team ever, is you got to get out on them. You have to, because it's like you have to, so that change ups doesn't matter, because you have to get as many points as you can against this team. But So this year, I believe it was going into last week, the Bills they ran cover 2 about 18% of the time, 19%, compared to last year, where it was only 5%, I believe, 5 or 6% from the last 2 years. So overall, they've increased their cover 2 usage. So, I was okay. I think they're going to lean into that a little bit this game. And while they did, it was 28% this game. So, just under 1 out of 3 times. They went into man coverage more than they have this entire year. They're about 10% on this year, and they ran about 30% man coverage in this game. And again, they're just throwing everything, junk pitches, and then they have their fastball, but they're just trying everything they can. And that's why you could see Mahomes a lot of time. Mahomes is, he's weird. He's smart in his own way. Like his spatial awareness is extraordinary. Yeah, and how he understands leverage and where it goes. But he is underrated a bit as a processor and as an identifier of coverages. And that's why I think you had so many of those extended plays with Mahomes, which he always does. But how many were, because he was going, wait, you're in man here? Like, like he has a hesitate that half second and go, cover 2. If you're running everything 1 out of 5 times, 1 out of 4 times, it's hard to get a beat, because there's different answers on every play. Some concepts have answers for every coverage. The quarterback has to find it, though. And they can go, it's man. Here's my number 1 read. Oh, shoot, it's cover 2. Okay, I got to get to the backside dig.
And if you're running all that out of similar defensive looks, then he has no key and no tell.
Yep. And it's like, yes, the offense has an answer. The quarterback has to find it, though.
He's got to get to it. Get harder on him by changing everything and throwing everything at him. He's going to have to work.
Just that extra second. And I thought that was really smart. I was curious about that. I was like, dude, the Bills, I said, who blinks first, or who goes, no, I'm going to do this and we'll see how it goes. Like the week before against the Raiders all of a sudden ran all this man coverage. And I think Mahomes, and they run usually a ton of cover 2. The Raider Patrick Graham, their defense coordinator, loves to be in cover 2. So I think he was expecting that. He's like, okay, here comes cover 2, drop 8. And he's like, I think there's a lot of times he's like, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
Like, and And that's why, as the game went along, though, Mahomes became Mahomes because he was like, he goes, "Oh, you're running man every third down." Well, I know where I'm going now. He figured
That's
it
the
out.
huge point, especially on third down. He starts out 0 for 3, then he's 5 for the next 5 because the Chiefs or the Raiders don't vary up that look. They just keep going. They're bringing pressure. They're playing man, and he's just like, okay, pressure with man, dink. Pressure with man, dink.
I'm going to hit Juju on a sail route. I'm going to hit this guy going over the middle. Like, that's how he works. And so that's where the other point about what the Bills were unscouted looks was they were in the dime personnel, which was the 3-2-6 with Matt Milano, which I thought was genius. I think that they took what the Bengals played in the playoff game against the Chiefs and they leaned into it. And it was funny. And they didn't show it right away. Andy Reid does an opening script. And then I think when you got outside the opening script, that's when they started showing it more and more. I think it ended up being 7 out of 11 or third downs. They were in the dime look. But they didn't, at the end, they were running cover 2, but they ran 1 robber out of this look. They ran 2 man out of this look. Again, just little tweaks. It wasn't just, that's what I got a little frustrated in my own private way where I'm sitting here. I don't leave this office for basically the whole, until Thursday afternoon. And then I finally go downstairs. And I was getting a little frustrated. Everyone's like, "Oh, you just drop 8." It's like, that was one component of what they were doing. They were changing up the coverages every play. And that's where Mahomes had to wait an extra second. That throw you mentioned to Sky Moore, where he hits the sail route, which was just freaking beautiful. On one of the greatest throws I've seen this year. And
on that. Oh, yeah. It's like and it's, what's even better? It's a 3rd and 9, and Sky Moore runs it at 10 yards to make sure he gets past the sticks, and Mahomes hits him big.
And he beats whoever corner was on him.
Dame Jackson.
Dame Jackson.
He's in catch man. He tries to speed turn with it. He's still there. But Sky Moore gets it.
He beats it. It was nice. And the ball is perfect. Yeah. And so that was a robber look out of that same 3-2-6 dime look. So, okay, there's robber. And then they ran 2 man. And then the last play with the interception was cover 2. And I just thought that was perfect because Matt Milano on those looks, the Bucks will do this, but they will do it with 4-4 Devin White, and is that he is the D ends like Von Miller and the other D ends. They have 2-way goes. I saw somebody saying, "Oh, he was told to knife inside here. Matt Milano works outside." No, they have 2-way goes. They can attack how they want to attack because in theory, it's Milano can. No matter what, he's the contain guy. So when you're usually in a 4 down front, the outside guys are the contain guy. If you run a game, then the inside guy works around. But there's always got to be contain guys. So now it's just basically he is the spy, but truly he's the contain guy. Because Mahomes, if you notice that when he did scramble, it was up the middle. Like when he did tuck and run, it was up the middle because Milano was getting ready to run on the outside. And I just love the chess match of football. It's so
awesome. Like, and everything you're saying is perfectly fitting into what I'm about to say. And so everything you're saying, I'm just like, yes, this is beautiful.
That's the best. Yeah. So that is, I love that because that dime look, the Bills haven't shown this entire season. I don't think they showed it at all last year. I was curious this whole week going into that week, I thought that the Chiefs would run a lot more heavy personnel to see if the Bills and 13 personnel to see if the Bills would blink and not be in nickel.
Especially with what they've leaned into that more this year with Gray and then their other tight ends. They started to a little bit last year, but they were running like Y insert at the beginning of this year, running like 2 tight ends and mashing. And their 11 personnel usage dropped, I believe, 12% versus last year going into this past week. So I thought the same thing. I was like, well, that's the dial they'll turn.
Exactly. I thought that's what they were going to lean into. They obviously didn't. Andy Reid's very smart, so I don't know.
Cheers to him.
But against the Bucks 2 weeks ago, they were in 13 personnel, like almost a quarter of their snaps. And then the next week against the Raiders, they were in at 0 snaps. Don't worry, I didn't write an article about it or throw in a whole breakdown.
About how this is like their new thing. And
their new thing. 0 snaps the next week. I don't know how many it was this past week either. I think it was 2. But that was just I thought that would be their tweak, and they didn't really lean into it much. But that was just same exact line. I think we're talking about the Bills trying to make the Chiefs basic on defense by being in 21-12. That was the Chiefs' way of doing it because a lot of teams treat Kelsey like a receiver. So we got to put another tight end on the field, and then we get you to match base because Todd Bowles like same exact thing with Spagnuolo. So no, I just thought it was a brilliant game plan from the Bills by they're so well coached, but so they can run these little tweaks. They just said, hey, we're going to run everything. We're just going to run everything and make you be right. Mahomes will get his, but at least let's make it hard on him. And they did a great job.
I loved the first piece of the versatility piece. Even so, I mean, I spent like hours going back and like watching the film. And so I'm charting the coverages. And just in the first half, just the first half alone, Yeah, to your point, you're seeing 2-man, you're seeing cover 1, you're seeing combo coverages where they're
Yeah.
playing man on one side and then they're playing zone to the other, but they'll switch up the zone. Sometimes it's quarters, sometimes it's cover 2. They're playing cover 3, then they're running cover 3 match, then they're running cover 2, then they're running Tampa 2, then it's 2-man. That's just in the first half. Then if you just look at cover 1, they're running robber. Then they'll run it with like a low hole type of player and they'll change who the low hole player is and what they're doing. And like we mentioned, they're doing all of it. I'm getting so excited. They're doing all of it from like the same kind of look. Like there is no like
it's late rotation.
Yes. Boom. Like living in that world and some numbers to kind of like put things through. This Bills defense as a whole, you know, you mentioned this. I used SIS for my numbers. I know you're a true media guy because you have that access. It's beautiful.
That's all I got.
I wish I had true media. True media is awesome. Coming into this week, Bills 75% zone coverage, most in the NFL. 75% zone, 75% zone coming into this week. Week 6 against the Chiefs, 47% zone, a 28 percentage point drop in zone coverage. That's what this team has been. 2 high shells, spin, rotate, 2 high coverages after, majority of cover 2 this year and cover 4, but mixing in the single high looks and doing what they're doing, all with the added benefit of you can get home with rushing your front 4 and just have the numbers advantage in coverage by just playing 7 all the time, which means you're always winning against the route distribution. Their ability to change up coverages and everything they were throwing at Mahomes and making it look the same and then changing that pre to post snap picture. And exactly your point, just adding, I had Ollie Connolly on the show and his phrasing is you're just trying to add beats to the quarterback. And that's what they were doing, just making him hold it for a little bit more, which works when you've got a Hall of Famer as one of your defensive ends who all you have to do is give him a one-on-one opportunity. And that's where, this is my favorite part. So those 3-man rushes with the aggressive spy, I'm very big in the whole notion of like how, and I don't think this is unique to me, but things we see in the NFL, like a lot of it starts out in the college game and it makes the way to the NFL. And so like, even just with what we've seen with like read option and RPOs and then starts in college, makes its way up. And so you see the answers for those offenses come from defensive schemes in college. And what the Bills are running with those, 3-man pressure looks, and then that aggressive spy action from Milano is that odd mirror package from Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann and Dan Lanning at Georgia before Lanning went to Oregon now for their answer for mobile quarterbacks. Like they were living in a world where they wanted to play 2-man on 3rd down and they were getting beat by the mobile quarterbacks in college. Exactly. Quarterbacks running because they're true dual threat quarterbacks. They can run, they can throw, they're not deficient either. Boom, they were making things happen. So they come up with that odd mirror look, which is basically a 3-man rush with that 1-man aggressive spy, the Matt Milano in this instance. And that aggressive spy, it's not your traditional spy where you just like sit and you wait for the quarterback to cross the line and then you go. No, the second the quarterback is off the spot, you attack, you go. The second the quarterback feels the pocket break, you are gone. And then what happens, to your point earlier, it ends up playing like a 4-man rush and it's like a twist. So what you see on the interception to end the game where Von Miller spikes inside, he spikes inside, Milano goes around. It's the same thing like you're running a twist. And Milano is going the first instance he sees.
When you unlock a guy like Von Miller, because now Von Miller can just do what he wants. He can go, I'm going to go inside on this one. And like that, you want to unlock your best player. Like, have freedom. That is a good strategy.
Do what you want. It's beautiful. And then what's even better, they're doing it with Milano mugging up on the defensive line. So he's mugging on Trey Smith, which means Trey Smith has to honor him as a potential rusher. So on the snap, I got to block Milano. Milano drops out and he's on the Von Miller side, which means Von Miller now has a one-on-one opportunity with that tackle who happened to be Andrew Wiley a majority of the time, and he whoops him. A lot of reps in this game. So Milano helps you dictate protection a little bit and almost ensure that one-on-one opportunity for Von Miller. Then he drops slightly so that way he can take away part of the middle of the field and muddy up some of the read for Patrick Mahomes. And then Patrick Mahomes eventually declares and escapes or moves, and you seize on him. You constrict in that boa constrictor type of defense, except this time up front. And those looks, that odd mirror package from, and this is, I watched this coach. I was so excited when they did this. Like I watched this coaching clinic with Glenn Schumann so many times at Kirby Smart. Like but they also have the personnel to do it, especially last year. You're running this with Carter and Jordan Davis and Trayvon Walker. And they just have amazing athletes. But that's part of why it worked for the Bills. You've got Von Miller. Daquan Jones is having a great year. Greg Rousseau. And then you've got this plus athlete in Matt Milano,
Yes.
which also means you get to drop a pterodactyl like Tremaine Edmonds into coverage for whatever you're trying to do. And all of it with what they were doing with Mahomes, it wasn't necessarily about getting the sack. It was just about breaking the pocket for him and not letting him be able to step up or set up, not letting him access the parts where he was, when he was successful scrambling, exactly like you said, where was it? On the inside, those B gaps, that's where he gets through. The Bills started to close that off as the game went on, and they broke the pocket time and time again. And it wasn't just getting the sacks. I mean, granted, because he was pressured on 40, this is wild. He was pressured on 46.8% of dropbacks, but he only had a 13.6 pressure to sack rate. That's phenomenal considering you were pressured on half your dropbacks.
That's insane.
But it's wild. But he was throwing it away a ton because the Bills were breaking the pocket, bringing that aggressive spy. And he was like, oh, let me dirt it or let me throw it away. Or you put him in these disadvantageous positions. And I just thought that game plan was so well done. And that's something that we had not seen the Buffalo Bills do, especially in conjunction with the dime looks. And they're running this odd mirror package up front and 6 DBs, and they're just using Saron Neal, who got beat a decent amount against Travis Kelce. But come fourth quarter, when he was just beating the hell out of them all game, Travis Kelce started to wear down. And it was just an aspect to this defense, buttons they hadn't pressed, dials that they hadn't turned before, and seeing them come into this game with that, while also not having one of the best cornerbacks in football in Tre'Davious White available, not having one of their all-pro safeties, Micah Hyde, who's done for the year, and still them being like, no, we're not going to miss a beat. We're going to throw a whole bunch of coverages. We're going to disguise coverage. And then we're going to run these new packages that you haven't seen before and just limit one of the best quarterbacks and best offenses in the NFL. I truly thought it was like a beautiful thing to see schematically, just how it hit.
It was awesome. So like when the Bengals started running the AFC Championship game, and you could just see the Chiefs going like, okay, well, RPO. And then that wasn't working because they have 8 in coverage. And then we'll do this. Like they couldn't find the answer. And part of me is like, well, you should be spending all offseason going, okay, this beat us. So what should our answers be? And it's so hard in the middle of a game as a coach is to have those in-game adjustments. Yes, you'll have maybe 1 play or 2 play. You're like, hey, next time we're on third down, we're going to run this next time. But that's all fine and good if you're running the same freaking coverage behind it every time. They weren't running just cover 2 or 2. Like the Bengals started running just 2-man every snap. And like you said, they're in that game too, they were using, oh my God, like it used to be a Seahawk, big, tall DB, but he was just beating the crap out of Kelce.
Trey Flowers?
Trey Flowers, thank you. And he was just beating the crap out of Kelce every snap. That's kind of like one of the ways to do it. That was the 2-man version. And then Mahomes was looking to scramble. Like you said, that's the answer. 2-man, one of the best answers, just the quarterback to scramble. That's why Tom Brady faces a lot of 2-man because no one you ain't worried about him scrambling. Yeah. So it's, but Mahomes very willing to scramble. And it's all the stuff you said is awesome because that's what it is. It's a post-snap game. It's a not predetermining this D-line game we're running. It's a post-snap game that reads out basically what you're doing on offense. And when you can't guess what coverage is coming with it, it's like there's times like even with the Eagles defense this year and old Chiefs defense was if they're in this personnel grouping, they're running this defense. And it's like 100% tendency. But if you just even run 3 coverages out of it, that's a pain in the ass because now it's if Mahomes guesses wrong and Josh Allen does this as well, and this is why they're so extraordinary, is if they guess wrong, they're like, oh, shoot, that's not the coverage. Okay, I'm just going to go create and I'll find a throw it. Now you're taking that away. So now he has to be right from the pocket. And it wears you down. It's hard. Yes, Mahomes over time will end up winning like that. It's inevitable. Him and these top tier quarterbacks will end up winning. But in a small sample size of 5 third downs, you win 4 of those. You're winning. It's impossible to move the ball as offense. You can't get those big chunks. And honestly, it's one of the best defensive game plans of recent times because it's just such a unscouted looks. And it speaks to the defense. Anybody can say, oh, we're going to run 5 different coverages against this quarterback, but you still have to coach it. And the players still have to know what the rules are and this formation and everything. So it speaks to Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott and their coaches that all the rules were good. We know exactly what we're going to do against this formation and this formation. So it was awesome. Awesome in theory, awesome on the chalkboard, and then awesome when it played out against one of the best players in the league and really in a long time, him and Josh Allen.
And you're seeing so much from so many snaps. You're seeing, Mahomes adjust or communicate something to Kelce or move Juju. And then you see the entire Bills defense they're checking, they're calling things out because they know what's coming, and everybody's on the same page. They, to your point, they know their rules. And again, like just being able to throw that change up and throw something new and execute and have everybody on the same page. And also like a lot of it, as you know, this comment says Von Miller, that's the difference. Like a lot of it does help. This is because I think a lot of people might come away from this game and be like, oh, well, just everybody should just run odd mirror and just do that. You still need to have the horses to do it. You need to have that edge winner. That's also part of what helped the Bengals. You had Sam Hubbard and you had Trey Hendrickson. You have two dudes who can win on the edge. Hendrickson is better than Hubbard, but Hubbard's no slouch. You had two dudes who could get home and impact the game that way. Let alone Logan Wilson at the second level and how Jesse Bates was playing and what Mike Hilton gives you and Von Bell and that whole crew for Cincinnati. You still need the chess pieces to execute. It's not enough to be like, I got this great design. You still need the players to make it work. And when you have the horses like a Von Miller who can win anytime, especially when he gets in a one-on-one scenario, especially when, coming into this game, Von Miller had a 56.2% snap rate coming into the Chiefs game. This past game against the Chiefs, 76.8. They let him work. Big game. They treated him like a starting pitcher the first 5 weeks. You know, you got your day where you can throw, but just kind of chill in between, get some work, don't overload yourself. And then when he was on the mound, you're going 8 innings, and we need you to throw like 115, 120 pitches. And part of that, because he was working on that side against Wiley so much, he started getting into that rhythm. He knew it was going to work. So by the time you got to the fourth quarter, he's got his pass rush plan from the first 3 quarters. He knows what he's thrown, when he's thrown it, what he wants to do to set it up later. And he keeps getting one-on-one opportunities because of the look you're giving him. He's winning, breaking the pocket. And then you've got an extremely athletic linebacker in Matt Milano being the guy to come down onto Patrick Mahomes in that aggressive spy. This is up there. It was perfect. And again, I view the football very objectively, even though I am a Bills fan. Exactly what you said. Like I loved this game plan so much. This is close and up there with another Bills game. The Indianapolis Colts' offensive game plan against the Bills last year. For everything Frank Reich did was perfect.
He knew stuff.
He knew what he was going to do with the first 15 scripted. He knew what the Bills were going to try to counter with. He knew how to counter their counter. Everything that the Bills tried to do, he was like, oh, that wrong. Oh, you want to do that? Wrong. And the Bills, they weren't that level of effective, but they gummed up the works and made Patrick Mahomes inefficient. And they beat up Travis Kelce. Like Kelce still had his numbers, but they wore on as the game went on. And that's all you can do. You're not stopping Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen and Travis Kelce and these studs. You just have to try and contain them a little bit. Just make them a little inefficient, win in some situational areas, whether it's 2-minute or third down, get them off the field. And the Bills defense did that with regularity. And kudos to Leslie Frazier. Kudos to Brandon Beane for getting pissed that Washington took J.D. McKissick. And so he's like, screw it. We're getting Von Miller. And just comes in and, man, just really – and again, I love that the college piece tying in. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've watched that because that clinic from Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart is also where they introduced, like, their simulated pressure package at Georgia and why they came up with it. And, oh, yeah, I saw that. I was like, odd mirror. And then we did I recognized it. And then me and Eric did the film last night with Ted Wynn from the Athletic. He was on with us. Yeah, he was fantastic. So we were just talking odd mirror for like 45 minutes. And I was just like, God, like, I love this package. And it's
fun.
It's so fun.
When you recognize it. I know.
Yeah.
When you get to do the Leo point, it's always fun.
It's
Leonardo
so good.
DiCaprio point. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that always makes it fun.
And I felt like it's like an Easter egg in a video game or a movie where like, you know what that was like. Oh, like I popped super hard whenever when you got the first glimpse of Thanos after the end credits of the one, it was like, oh, like,
I know what that is.
Yes. To go against them would be like to court death. And then it goes to Thanos and he smiles. I'm like, oh, that's because he's in love with death in the comics. He's super excited. Oh, and my friend, I saw it with my, she's my wife at the time, but she was like, why did he smile? And I was like, oh, and I was so geeked up because like, I know what that means. Oh,
that's fun. That's awesome.
It was a good time. You were fantastic. I know I kept you. You got an article to do.
Yeah. You guys don't have to worry. Bills fans don't have to worry about the 2023 quarterback class. So, yeah, it's not the article for Bills fans.
Don't jinx it. You got to knock on wood. You got to knock on wood with that. But there's some good dudes. I mean, Bryce and Stroud and what's his face from Kentucky?
Levis. Yeah, a lot of different flavors. It's that's what's interesting in it. And then there's some other interesting names like Van Dyke from Miami and Richardson from Florida.
I'm a Miami guy. I don't want to hear about Van Dyke. He got better the last couple of weeks, but
yeah, he got better the last couple. He does enough nice things, but it's one of those where it's like he still has blemishes. That's actually what he's the last guy I just wrote. I call him the stork because he's just so long limbed. But I should call him the ibis, right? That's
well played. That's much
jokes. Yeah.
I wonder how many people are going to connect them. Be like, what the hell is an ibis? I'm like, that's their mascot.
Yeah. And then McKee from Stanford's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm starting to like him a little bit more as I watch him, but Stanford's not very good. So
yeah, they're
rough.
Yeah, I want to be kind, but they're rough.
They're rough. Not a lot of juice on that team.
No, and Pac-12 or Pac whatever is going to need them now that they just keep hemorrhaging, teams to. And USC's like finally kind of back, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of back, and we're out. We're moving. Yeah, we're moving.
We're taking our talents to the Big Ten.
LeBron James style, man.
Yeah, South side of Chicago instead of the South Beach.
Nice. From South Beach to South side of Chicago. Nate, I appreciate the hell out of you as always. I definitely took a shot in the dark on Sunday when I reached out, especially because I know like it usually takes you a while to answer. I was like, he probably won't answer. And then I opened my phone
on Twitter all Sunday, so you got me.
You answered me on Monday. I was like, I think this is almost like a 29-hour answer. This might be the quickest answer ever. And you were like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, oh, this is fantastic.
It is. No, I appreciate you asking me. This is always fun. That's why I'm always a pleasure to come on. So thank you again for having me.
No, I appreciate the hell out of you. You are, I have a lot of guests that I really like, and they probably won't watch again, but you are my favorite guest to come on. I just love chopping it up with you about just, we get off track on the stupidest shit, and then the actual football talk, the X's and O's, like how you perceive the game, how you see it, how you're able to break it down. These are one of my, favorite times whenever you're on the show. So I appreciate the hell out of you taking time, out of your busy schedule to join me here and talk about this Bills offense and this Bills game plan against the Chiefs. And just in case some people join later, plug your stuff one more time, anything and everything you do, where people can find you and all that jazz.
Yeah, find me first, Nate_Tice on Twitter. But I write for The Athletic. I just wrote up my 30s article, which is season awards through first 6 weeks on The Athletic. And then mostly you can hear me on The Athletic Football Show with Robert Mays. I do the Sunday recap episodes. We are live on YouTube's now, on the YouTubes now, Sunday nights, but it also comes out wherever you find your podcasts Monday morning. And then also I do the Thursday preview show, which we preview the Sunday games. We do it live on Thursday. It comes out overnight on Thursday for your podcasts. But that's where you can find me. We started doing live shows after the Thursday night football games, which have been very entertaining the last couple of weeks. So
yeah, I saw you and Robert going back and forth having to do that Bears game last week, and him just tweeting more and more memes.
I knew he'd be sad, but I thought, oh my god, I didn't realize I had to talk him full off the ledge. So that was a fun one. The week before, we got that Colts Broncos brouhaha, which was also very enjoyable to talk about. So
might have a little better one this week. DeAndre Hopkins returns, and maybe we get some fire. But the whole Saints team is all out everywhere on both sides of the ball. So man. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's gonna be some good talking points, but yeah, I wish that's Saints team. I think Olave is playing, which will make it sweet. That's some guy. That's one guy I do want to watch. So.
That's something.
Something. That's what it looks at for me. Those Thursday shows are fun because I have no notes for them. I just come out, shoot from the hip, and it's great. It's a lot of fun actually.
Like Ric Flair coming off a bender, and you're just like, I'm in the ring. Let's do this thing. Let's call this match as we go.
Call it as we go. Yeah. All right. Let's go home. Let's go home.
That's it.
Let's just do the figure four roll around. That's what we do for a half hour. That's exactly.
Here's what we're doing. Throw me into the buckle. I'm going to flip over it. I'm going to come off the top. You're going to hit me. I'm going to beg for mercy. Figure four. We're out. Let's do this thing. I'm hungover. I got to throw up. I'm Ric Flair, man of the century.
That's a great ad.
That'll be the promo for this. Everybody's gonna be like, what the hell were they talking about? This show doesn't make any sense.
That's the clip. That's going on social.
That's the one. Oh man. You are one of my favorite people just to have on the show. And you and Robert are one of the best, if not the best, and one of my go-tos. Just the way you guys break down the game and everything you cover, how you do it. And good people to boot on top of it. So I'll let you take your leave. Yeah, hell yeah, man. You deserve it. I'll let you take your leave. Good luck writing that article and doing all the things you do out there on the West Coast with your East Coast bias. Inside joke. And enjoy the rest of your week. I'll probably be DMing you at some point again this season to be like, hey, come on, let's do this.
I would love to. It has to be after a win though, so it's nice and easy for me to come on with a smile.
That's fair. Or we should be a lot of them. Yeah, hopefully as they just plummet from now. Or you can come on after a loss and we can just rip the team apart because they're terrible.
Always fun too. Always fun.
Either way, content is content. I appreciate the hell out of you, Nate.
Thanks for having me on. I'll see you next time.
Later. Man, one of the best. I also appreciate you folks dropping in all the kind words and appreciation for Nate as the episode went through and as he was ending there. I want to go back and grab some comments. I know that I didn't grab a ton as we were going through as Nate and I were riffing. I know sometimes with like some of the outside guests, I don't want to interrupt their rhythm and kind of be considerate of what they're doing. I want to go back to Steve's comment. Steve, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the donation. Steve's comment here talking about it for clearing $3 million of cap space. KC is making a move at the deadline. What should the Bills do as their chess move at the deadline? I don't know if them clearing the cap space is a guarantee, kind of like shot across the bow that they're making a move. I know part of the cap move was to like clear space for what they already have existing on the roster. I didn't dive into it fully, but I don't know if it's 100% guaranteed that they're making a move. But rumors are now, yeah, that they're going after Odell and some things are cooking up. But so I like where your head's at, Steve. What should the Bills do as their chess move at the deadline? I'm torn, to be honest with you. Like I look at this team and like, what are you really going to get? I know Carolina is having like kind of a fire sale, and that's where everybody's looking. So if you can grab a Brian Burns, I don't think the Bills will, because I don't think they necessarily have a need. Plus, with what you'd have to give up in a pipe dream, give me Jeremy Chin, safety from Carolina. Not just because Micah Hyde is out, I just love him as a player, and I think his fit would be solid. I think it's got to be, it's something running back related, not to just grab the low hanging fruit. And I don't necessarily think it's Christian McCaffrey, like to stick on the Carolina point. I would take him, right? I look at the running back position. I look at the offensive line. I don't know. We'll start with running back. Like I would kick the tires on Christian McCaffrey, which the Bills may or may not have after, the rumors that have come out. I would kick the tires on Antonio Gibson. I would kick the tires on maybe even Cordero Patterson. Some of the names I liked, I wanted Cordero Patterson free agency this past year. I kick the tires on those guys. I would also, I see Jim's comment there as well. It's going to be hard to acquire offensive line depth at the deadline. I would love anything for this offensive line. Spencer Brown getting banged up. Questenberry wasn't bad in this game, but I don't want to make moves to 13's, comment there in the point. But I think offensive line depth, you can never have enough corner depth, and you can never have enough offensive line depth. I would like some more functional or higher end offensive line depth. I don't need a starter. You don't need to go out and acquire the best guard that's potentially on the trade market. But I would take a piece like that, just anything to add some depth to the interior, maybe even a swing tackle piece, especially with Tommy Doyle going down. Like I would like some reinforcement at the offensive line position. Steve says safety with a question mark. That's just a pipe dream. I like DeMar Hamlin. And I like, I obviously like Jordan Poyer. I think Hamlin has played well, but if you had an opportunity to, and I don't think you do, I don't think Carolina is, maybe they are, they're kind of a dumpster fire, but I don't think Carolina is necessarily tearing it down to the point that they're like McCaffrey gone, Jeremy Chin gone, Burns gone, DJ Moore gone. I don't know if they're full fire sale. I would gladly take Jeremy Chin if they were. I would trade, oh boy, what would I trade? I would trade a day 2 pick. Easily, you might be able to coax me into multiple or some futures or a higher pick. I think he's a stud and he would answer the safety position long term, but I'm comfortable with DeMar Hamlin, so not having to give up anything. I think, again, if you're looking at anything, trying to make that chess move, I look at running back. Not that I think the Bills running backs are bad, but if you can get somebody that can elevate the play of this offensive line or add another chess piece out of that backfield, I would take that piece. And to Nick's point here on Carolina, yeah, like Carolina isn't tearing it down like that. They're just evaluating now in the contracts. And I think you're going to have a new regime coming in terms of a head coach. Does he want to be tied to Christian McCaffrey, who's had injury concerns and who has a hefty contract coming forward? I think that's the reason why he's being shopped. And I think people take that as like, well, he's arguably their best player. If they're shopping him, they're shopping everyone. To Nick's point, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that's being communicated a lot. And again, trade rumor season is trade rumor season. Everybody loves, selling clicks and selling views for things. But I would kick the tires on some of the Carolina players. But I really look at offensive line and running back, Steve, to your original question here. I think I would take some more offensive line depth. I would take another piece in the running back room that can offer you, some sort of versatility that you don't have. I think if you're looking at this team holistically, the Buffalo Bills, and the reason I'm focused on offensive line and running back, I look at this entire team. Where would you want upgrades? If we start from the back to front on defense, Okay, maybe someone above DeMar Hamlin at the other safety. I think corner with Trey coming back and how Elam and Dane and Benford have played, I would always take corner depth, but I think they're okay at corner. I would maybe take some linebacker depth, but I'm okay with Dodson and Bernard, and Milano and Edmonds have played out of this world. Defensive line is good. Offensive line could definitely use some depth. Tight end, I'm okay with Knox and Morris and even Sweeney for what he offers. Wide receiver, I would take Odell as a free agent. I don't think it's a necessity, but I would gladly welcome it with his skill level and his fit in the offense. Quarterback, knock on wood, everything's okay. And then running back could use an upgrade. I think that's where I'm looking at it from that perspective of where can you get better? There's not a lot of areas for the Bills to get better without really having to offer something legitimate in order to get better. And I don't think that's going to happen given where this team potentially is. Good question, Steve. Thank you for sticking around, and thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. Also, thank you to Carl thank you to the super chat I pulled up earlier. I forgot from who, the blue one. But I remember the color. But I thank you very much. I know it wasn't a question. It was just more of a comment with the Go Bills at the end. Thank you very much for the super chat and the donation for that. And Carl, thank you to you for the super chat and for being here. Carl says, wide receiver and running back are okay. Offensive line is in need. Yes. Andre Dillard? Question mark. The Eagles already have starting offensive tackles, Mailata and Lane Johnson. Is Philly willing? Cost, injury history, thoughts? Dillard was a high pick for them. Obviously, when you have Lane Johnson and then Jordan Mailata comes out of nowhere, I don't know what's going to happen with the Philly offensive line. Lane Johnson got banged up again. Mailata just came back from injury. I think they're going to hedge their bets and keep their offensive line together. I don't see too many things coming out of that grouping. And then kicking the tires on Dillard. Haven't seen a ton of them. I mean, I know Stoutland, their offensive coordinator, is pretty sweet in terms of development. He was one of Nate's guys that he had up for assistant of the year, the offensive line coach for the Eagles. He's fantastic, Jeff Stoutland. He's part of the reason why Mailata has been awesome and why Jason Kelsey is sick and Lane Johnson and how they operate. I don't think Philly would give anything up, especially with what they invested and then with the health of Lane Johnson at this point. So that's fair. But good question. I really appreciate that question. That's a good thought-provoking one. Where else? Nick coming through with the, definitely O-line and maybe a wide receiver, but I know Buffalo isn't directly tied to Odell. I bet it's Vaughn's boys or buffing his boys' pockets. It's weird I'm not one to really subscribe to like the whole player indicator thing. Like I'm not this guy deleted his social media of this team. This guy said this or like this tweet or like this post. But in all these interviews, like Von Miller keeps seeming like very confident that Odell is coming or almost like sheepishly playing his cards close to the vest. Like he knows something. Maybe Odell is coming. I know wherever he's going to go, he wants to go to a Super Bowl contender and he wants to go to a winner. So you're looking at the teams. I don't know and you look at who he potentially went with last year. So you have the Chiefs, you have the Rams, you have the Packers. The Rams are kind of faltering. The Chiefs are still sexy. The Packers are in need, but are they sexy? Has Aaron Rodgers like checked out? Can they right the ship? The Bills, he's got his boy Von Miller here. The Bills are sick. They have a need. I think there's a high probability he comes to the Buffalo Bills. But yeah, the whole situation with Von, like he's either confident or he's really dragging this out and playing everybody like a fiddle. But very interesting. Ooh, comment here from Boof Magoo. Melvin Gordon. I would kick the tires on Melvin Gordon. I'm still a believer in James Cook. His usage still kind of perplexes me a little bit. I would kick the tires on Melvin Gordon. I have to see what money he's owed and how his contract looks. But I still think he's quality on the field. I know he's had fumble concerns and I know he's not getting carries and everything. It just Denver is weird. The vibe is off. The execution is off. Russell Wilson is doing Mr. Unlimited things. He's weird. I don't know what's going on. Things are going off the rails in Denver, but I would kick the tires on Melvin Gordon. I still like him enough as a player. Maybe that's because of, he's helped me in fantasy football over the years and a little bit earlier this year. Not a ton, but I would kick the tires. Again, I think anybody from a running back perspective that can offer you either 1A or 1B starter level reps, I would take that. I don't know if Melvin Gordon's going to want to come here because I think if he's here, Singletary's probably still out snapping him. So I don't know if that's something that he's going to be like pleased to be in this offense. I think he wants to go to an offense where he gets more carries, where he's more of a focal point. I think unless you're getting a legitimate 1A running back, if you're just getting a complimentary piece, which I think Melvin Gordon would be, I think Singletary is still going to see the lion's share of snaps. Singletary coming into this week is like 5th or 6th in running back snaps. He's clearly the RB1 for the Bills. They would take something special to usurp him in terms of that role. So I don't know. It would be a bit interesting. Roy says, who could Bean trade away? Zach Moss? I don't know how much value Zach Moss is going to have on the open market. Like maybe like the highest of most optimistic ceilings is like a 5th for Zach Moss. Maybe you throw him in there if you also trade for a running back and you're throwing Moss and a pick for a running back, but then you're committing more draft capital to a running back. I don't see a ton of moves being made, to be honest, for the Buffalo Bills. Trade deadline is tough. It takes 2 to tango. I do know that Brandon Beane will try everything. I think he kicks the tires on everything. I think this offseason after offseason has proved, whether it's free agents, whether it's trades, what they do on draft day, Brandon Beane, turns over every rock and kicks every tire. So I think, he will try. I don't necessarily think you don't see a lot of moves at deadline day. And the ones that do go are, what the Rams gave up for Von Miller, which was, multiple seconds. Usually you're committing a lot of draft capital, some sort of financial capital at some point, but significant draft capital to pry someone away for another team. And especially this year where how many teams are there that are really like lost causes? There's a lot of parity in the NFL right now. You have a lot of teams that are still just like, you know what? If we win the next couple games, we're in the shot for the playoffs. And I think if you have enough teams that think that way, it's going to be hard to pry guys away, really, unless you're the Carolina Panthers, who, like we talked about, I don't know how much of a full fire sale they are having. But nonetheless, we will see as we move forward. Appreciate those questions on the trade deadline as the end. I'm throwing up the banner that says Toodles, you guys, because we got to get out of here. We've been rolling for an hour and 40 minutes. I want to thank everyone. Oh, real quick, I know multiple people throw up comments here. Drop a like while you're still here, please, and thank you. If you are here live, likes go a long way towards helping us to track and trend in front of more eyes and ears. If you liked what Nate and I did for this episode, I sure as hell did, not just because I was a part of it and because I'm a fan of Nate's, but that conversation I thought was fantastic from talking ball perspective. So if you enjoyed that and you watched this episode, you're still here, please drop a like on this video. If you are watching later, post live, please drop a like on this video. Thank you very much. If you are listening on any one of the podcasting apps or platforms, please rate and review Disguise Coverage, Spotify, Apple. Drop a review, drop a rating, please, and thank you. Subscribe, whether you are on one of the audio platforms or whether you're here on YouTube. Subscribe to Disguise Coverage. Tell your family and friends and loved ones all about it. Or if you hate the show, tell your enemies. Roy says he drops a like for the tree. I appreciate a lot of the positive comments that came through with the tree in this episode. I appreciate the like for the jack-o'-lantern topper, the garland, the lights. Appreciate the hell out of you folks. Also, I like to bring it up at different times. Show love for the sponsor, the best pizza hands down in Buffalo, New York. Go get yourself some One Pie Pizza. The online menu can be found in the episode show notes here on YouTube or any one of the audio platforms you are listening to. Go find that online menu. Delicious sweet sauce pie, fantastic cheese to sauce ratio, homemade blue cheese, cup and char pepperoni. Good people doing good for the community, different initiatives and drives to better the city of Buffalo and the community at large. And they have a fantastic, delicious product. Football season is pizza season, but every season is pizza season. Go and get yourself some One Pie Pizza. And while you're doing that, again, drop a like on this video, rate, review, subscribe, boom, like and another comment saying the tree game is solid. I pride myself on this tree game, as does my wife, who helps me decorate it and pick out a lot of the things for it. I'm also a huge fan of the cat. I love that adorable black cat, a little purple hat, a little pumpkin. He's adorbs. I'm a huge fan. I think the cat deserves some love. I recognize the appreciation for the tree, and the tree's fantastic. You folks know I love the tree. That cat's adorable. Look at that face. And the pumpkin and the hat, the background is just fantastic for me. It's one of the things I pride myself on, and my wife does as well. So I appreciate the shout outs for the background. Thank you, folks, for joining me on this episode of Disguised Coverage. Please drop a like here on YouTube. Please rate and review and subscribe on YouTube. Audio platforms, Spotify, Apple. Tell your family, friends, and loved ones. Word of mouth is always fantastic communication and tremendously appreciated. If you like this show, of course. If you didn't, there might be something wrong with you. And even so, tell your enemies, try and ruin their day. A like's a like, a view's a view, a watch is a watch, listen's a listen, so on and so forth. Thank you very much for riding with me live. If you didn't ride with me live, I still appreciate you just as much. Thank you to everyone who donated, the super chats in this episode, the engagement with each other, the engagement with myself, the praise for Nate. I know I'm throwing a lot of things here at you at the end, but I'm tremendously grateful and appreciative to have this platform and for all of you tuning in every week, live, not live, video, audio, whatever. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones stay safe, take care of one another, be kind to one another. I will see you next week. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.